Her hand was still warm when I let it go. She looked at me like I was crazy, like I was the one ruining the night. All because I leaned in and whispered, "You don't get to look at him like that while I'm standing right here." The music was still playing. Some slow cover of an 80s song. Something moody and romantic. The kind of song you only dance to if you mean it. And she meant it. I watched her smile at him. Her coworker, her mentor, her just a friend if we're still pretending. She hadn't smiled at me like that in 6 months. You ever have that out-of-body moment where you're standing in the middle of a crowd, and you suddenly see everything so clearly? It's like a light clicks on. Yeah, that was me in a rented blazer holding a champagne glass I never touched, staring at my wife while she danced with someone else like she forgot I even came with her. People saw. That's the worst part. I wasn't imagining it. I caught the glances, the polite coughs, the way one woman tilted her head like poor guy before pretending to sip her wine. And Dana, she danced right through it. Didn't even flinch. His hand was on her waist. She didn't move it. I took a breath, set the glass down gently on a nearby table like that somehow made me civilized, and turned around. I didn't make a scene. I didn't yell. I didn't even wait for the music to end. I just walked. I made it as far as the marble hallway, past the gold elevator doors when I heard heels clicking behind me. "Marshall, what the hell are you doing?" That voice, sharp, irritated, like I'd interrupted her night. I turned and that's when I saw it. Not panic, not guilt. Annoyance. Like I'd embarrassed her, like I was the problem. "You just walked out," she snapped. "You just danced with him like I didn't exist," I said. So I matched the energy. She folded her arms and laughed. Laughed. Not nervously, not apologetically. "God, you're so dramatic." That did it. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out the little envelope I'd brought. Yeah, I had a surprise for her later that night, believe it or not, and I handed it to her. "What's this?" She frowned. "Open it." She opened it and her face dropped. That wasn't a love letter. That wasn't an apology. It was a hotel receipt. 1 room, my name booked for a week. Not this hotel. Somewhere quiet. "Wait, what is this? You're leaving?" I didn't answer. She was still standing there in her dress, her makeup perfect, her ego cracking when I walked out the door. This time for real. And the crazy part, she hadn't even begun to regret it yet. But she would. Oh, she would. I thought she'd call right away. I really did. I expected the moment I stepped into that quiet hotel room, the one I'd reserved just in case, I'd hear her name on my phone screen with some panicked apology, something desperate, like, "Please come back. I didn't mean to." Or at least the classic, "Can we talk?" But no, nothing. Just silence. I stared at that phone like it was supposed to save my dignity. I had 3 missed notifications, none of them from her. One was a bank alert, one from a delivery app I hadn't used in weeks, and one was a stupid photo from a group chat. That was it. And so I lay there fully dressed, staring at the ceiling, fans spinning slowly above me, wondering how the hell we got here. But I'll tell you something. If I was hurting, I was also quietly furious. She'd looked me in the eyes and laughed. I replayed her face in that hallway over and over. Not a hint of guilt. Just that tight, exasperated smile that said, "You're overreacting again, Marshall." Like I was the one who'd ruined everything. I mean, how did it flip so fast? How did I become the problem for not standing there like a doormat, while she swayed with Mr. Designer watch and whispered, God knows what, in his ear? The next morning around 6:42 a.m., I finally got the first text. Just one word. "Really?" Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Where are you?" Just that smug little "really." I didn't answer. I let her sit with that, and an hour later the call started. 1, then 3, then 6. Straight to voicemail. Then came the long text. The kind where you can feel someone trying to write angry without sounding angry. It said, "You made a scene over nothing. It was a dance. You embarrassed me in front of everyone and I had to explain your childish behavior all night." Childish. That's what she called me, like I was some pouty teenager and not the man she married. But even then, I didn't respond. I spent the whole day doing something I hadn't done in years. Absolutely nothing. No errands, no emails, no small talk. I just walked through the park, through parts of the city I forgot existed. I sat on a bench and watched pigeons fight over crumbs and thought, this is more honest than what I had last night. By sunset, my phone had 17 missed calls. And still, I didn't answer because that wasn't regret. That was damage control. That was her checking to see if I'd come crawling back, before her coworkers started asking questions. But later that night, and I mean deep into the night, like past 1 a.m., she sent a message that finally cracked her mask. I read it twice. It said, "You made your point. Can we fix this before it gets worse?" Worse. Worse than watching my wife slow dance with another man while pretending I was invisible. Worse than her shrugging when I left. I typed a reply. My fingers shook. I had this whole thing drafted full of everything I'd wanted to say for months. But then I just deleted it and sent one sentence. "I don't think you've even begun to understand what you've done." That was it. And that's when things changed, because the next morning she showed up at my hotel door. Hair messy, eyes puffy, makeup smudged like she hadn't slept. She knocked and knocked again. And I stood behind that door listening. I didn't open it. Not yet. Because I needed her to feel what I felt. And this was only the beginning. She stood outside my door for 11 full minutes. I know because I watched the time on the little digital clock by the TV. I heard every knock, every soft, tentative pause in between. I even heard her whisper my name through the crack, like saying it quietly would make it hurt less. "Marshall, please just talk to me." But I didn't open it. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands clenched so tight my fingers were numb. And I forced myself to stay silent, because if I opened that door too soon, I knew I'd let her twist this all around again. She was good at that. Too good. Make me feel crazy, make herself the victim. And before I could say how much it hurt watching her in his arms, I'd end up apologizing for making her feel uncomfortable. Not this time. Eventually, she left. I waited until the elevator dinged before I even breathed. And when I peeked through the peephole just to be sure, all I saw was a single white envelope on the floor. I picked it up like it was radioactive. Inside was a folded piece of stationery, probably stolen from the front desk, on which she'd written 6 shaky words. "You're overreacting. Let's talk tonight." Overreacting. Still, that word clung to me the rest of the day like mold. Overreacting to what? Public humiliation. Watching my wife smile like a schoolgirl while pressing her body into a man who wasn't me. If anything, I was underreacting. A braver man would have ended it right there on the dance floor, tossed his ring into his half-full champagne glass, and walked out like a movie hero. Me? I packed socks. I booked a quiet room. I cried in the hotel shower. Yeah, I said it. I cried. That night, I didn't go home. I didn't even tell anyone where I was. I ordered food I barely touched, stared out the window at the parking garage, and tried to understand how I became the guy who had to beg his own wife to see him. It's not like I was perfect. I know that. I forgot anniversaries. I left dishes in the sink. I let myself go a little after the pandemic, but I never stopped loving her. Not once. And now she was acting like I was some speed bump in her fabulous career life. Then the twist came. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. It was a message from someone I didn't expect. Her younger sister Ellie. She'd always liked me. Said I was too soft for this family, but in a kind way. Her message was short. "You need to see this. I'm sorry." Attached was a video. Shaky, grainy, taken from a corner of the gala ballroom. In the clip, Dana was dancing with Garrett. But what wrecked me wasn't the way she moved. It was what she said. At one point, she leaned in and said something near his ear. The music was loud, but Ellie must have enhanced the audio or something, because I heard it clear as day. She said, "He won't leave. He never does." He laughed. She didn't look back. And right there, in that awful moment, something broke inside me, because she was right. Until now, I never did. But that was about to change. The video didn't just haunt me. It rewired something in my chest. I must have played it 20 times just to be sure I wasn't hearing it wrong. "He won't leave. He never does." The way she said it, so casual, so sure, like I was some obedient dog waiting by the door. No wonder she danced like I didn't matter. No wonder she looked through me when I left. Because in her mind, I was already forgiven, automatic, predictable. And maybe for a long time I had been. But not anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Around 3 a.m., I started packing my things from the hotel. Not because I was going back home, but because I knew I couldn't stay in limbo. I needed to do something permanent. I stared at my wedding ring for a long time before sliding it off and placing it on the nightstand. Not in anger, not in some dramatic "I'm done" way, just quiet, heavy, like a final sigh. Then I left the hotel and drove around the city until sunrise, not knowing exactly where I was going, just knowing I couldn't go back to the version of me who thought this marriage still had a pulse. Around 7:15 a.m., my phone lit up again. This time it was her best friend, Valerie. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. When I answered, she sounded like she was already in mid-conversation. "Marshall. Hey, I know things are messy, but I think you should know. Dana's been downplaying what happened a lot." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" I asked. She's telling people you got jealous over a harmless dance, that you made a scene, stormed off, and embarrassed her in front of clients. She's laughing it off like it's some dumb misunderstanding. I was stunned. I couldn't even speak. Valerie continued, this time quieter. Look, I'm not picking sides, but the way she acted last night, it wasn't okay. And the worst part, Garrett's married. His wife was there. She saw it, too. I felt cold all over. The shame was no longer just mine. People had seen, whispered, judged. And Dana, she spun it into some story where I was the weak link. The needy husband who couldn't handle a little flirtation. My loyalty made me a clown. My silence made me complicit. And now I was the villain in a tale she crafted to protect her image. Later that day, I did something I hadn't done in years. I visited my parents. I didn't explain everything, but I said enough for my dad to put a hand on my shoulder and nod. The kind of nod that says, you're not crazy. I've been there. And that night, as I sat in my old bedroom, the one with the faded posters and the squeaky bed frame, I received a message that made my chest cave in. It wasn't from Dana. It was from Garrett's wife. She didn't introduce herself. She didn't even ask how I was. She just wrote, I think it's time you and I had a conversation. I have a lot you need to hear. When I first saw her name, I didn't recognize it. Bridget Connolly. It was just a notification on my screen like all the others I'd been ignoring. But something about it felt heavier. I opened her message and for a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just some concerned outsider poking around. She was Garrett's wife. The man Dana had danced with. The man Dana had whispered to, pressed against, smirked beside while I watched like a ghost in my own marriage. And now I was talking to his wife, someone who'd been humiliated right alongside me, just quietly from the other side of the ballroom. She didn't waste time. Bridget had receipts, screenshots, dates, emails. At first, I didn't want to look. I wanted to believe it had only been one night, just a momentary betrayal, a stupid, selfish, public slap to my pride. But it wasn't. She told me what I think deep down I already suspected. Dana and Garrett had been meeting regularly for months. After-hours work sessions, client dinners, off-site branding consultations. The same excuses Dana had used when she got home late and smelled like someone else's cologne. The same ones I swallowed without question, because I was too afraid of what digging deeper might reveal. Bridget sent me an email trail. A few flirty lines here, a wink emoji there, a photo Dana had sent him from our beach vacation. Our vacation. She had sent him a picture of herself in that green swimsuit I loved. The caption read, don't tell my husband I still think about that night in Boston. I felt physically sick. Bridget and I ended up talking on the phone. I never imagined I'd have this kind of conversation with another spouse, especially not like this. Two strangers bound together by the same betrayal. She wasn't angry in the way I expected. She was exhausted, numb. I thought I was being paranoid, she admitted. I saw the way they looked at each other, but I didn't want to be that jealous wife. So, I stayed quiet, just like you did. We were both quiet for too long, but not anymore. That night, we made a decision, not out of revenge, but out of sheer survival. I couldn't go back to pretending nothing happened, and neither could she. So, we agreed. It was time for everything to come out. She told me she was confronting Garrett in the morning. She said I deserved to hear what Dana said once she knew the truth wasn't a secret anymore. The next morning, I left the house I'd grown up in and drove straight to our apartment. I still had a key. I hadn't told Dana where I was. I hadn't answered her texts, her calls, or the long-winded email she sent me at 3 a.m., titled For Closure If You Care. But this wasn't about closure. This was about truth. When I walked in, she was sitting on the couch, hair tied back, hoodie on. Mascara smudged like she'd been crying, or maybe just pretending to. She looked surprised to see me like she thought I'd just disappeared into the wind. Before she could speak, I sat down across from her and said one sentence. Garrett's wife called me. And that's when Dana's entire face changed. Not sad, not sorry. Panicked, and for the first time in this entire nightmare, I realized something. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing control. She didn't even try to deny it. That's what got me. The moment I said Garrett's wife called me, Dana didn't ask which Garrett, didn't play dumb. Didn't say, wait, what are you talking about? She just froze. Her mouth opened slightly. Her hands twitched on her lap. And then she blinked a few times like she was deciding which version of the truth would cost her the least. But the silence told me everything before she spoke a word. It was that awful stillness that comes when a liar realizes the room's been wired the whole time. Okay, she said finally, her voice slow and shaky. Okay, But it wasn't like that. I almost laughed. Wasn't like what, Dana? The part where you kissed him in Boston? The part where you said I'd never leave you? Or the part where you danced with him right in front of me like I was a broken chair? No one had the heart to throw out. She didn't cry. Not yet. Dana was always strategic, the kind of woman who only let herself cry when it benefited the outcome. So instead, she went cold, defensive. She stood up and crossed her arms, pacing like she was building a courtroom argument. I didn't plan for any of this to happen, she said. It got complicated. Garrett and he was there when I needed someone. You were distant. There it was. The shift. Blame. Somehow she was the victim again. I was distant because you were disappearing right in front of me, I snapped. You stopped talking to me months ago. You started dressing up for meetings at 9 p.m. You weren't just pulling away. You were erasing me. And still, she tried to spin it. We never slept together, Marshall. I tilted my head. That's your defense. That your emotional affair didn't get physical yet. She bit her lip. I didn't say it wasn't going to. I didn't think you'd find out this way. That sentence right there was what crushed me. Not because she confirmed my fears, but because she admitted her only regret was getting caught. I stood up. The apartment suddenly felt so small, like the walls were closing in. All the memories in that room, the movie nights, the anniversary dinners, the stupid little fights about takeout, it all felt fake, contaminated, like someone else's life we were only renting. I loved you, I said, almost whispering. She looked away. That was her answer. I walked to the door, but before I left, I paused. You know what the saddest part is? If you had just told me you were unhappy, I would have listened. I would have fought for us. But instead, you chose a guy who didn't even have the decency to stay loyal to his own wife. That hit her. I saw it. A flicker of shame. Or maybe just ego bruised by the reminder that Garrett had someone else, too. She sat down hard on the couch as if the weight of her choices finally caught up to her bones. But I didn't stick around to comfort her. I left. And this time there was no hesitation, because in that moment I wasn't walking away from my wife. I was walking away from a stranger wearing her face. I didn't think she'd break first. I thought she'd keep it together longer, spin the story into something more survivable. Maybe say we were taking time apart or working through private issues. That's her style, you know. Always polishing the image, even while the truth is bleeding out behind the curtain. But no, less than 48 hours after I walked out, it happened. Someone at her job forwarded me a screenshot, anonymous number, no message attached, just the image. It was a group chat, and her name was in the middle of it. Apparently, Garrett's wife didn't hold back. She sent every screenshot she had to our and to the partners and to the department leads. All of them. And then she CC'd Dana. It wasn't just a scandal. It was a public unraveling. The thread attached to the mail was titled, "So this is what company loyalty looks like." I stared at that line for a full minute. It was brutal, icy, and completely deserved. The chat messages that followed were worse. Coworkers reacting in real time. Wait, isn't Dana married? Wow. And she really danced with him in front of everyone. That explains the Boston trip. Her poor husband. That last one stung in the weirdest way. Her poor husband. That was me. I had become a cautionary tale in a digital thread among people who didn't know me. People who probably never even noticed me at the gala. But now I was the ghost behind the scandal. The quiet fool in the suit who finally vanished only to become the proof of everything. She tried to hide. That afternoon, Dana called me 12 times. I didn't answer a single one. On the 13th, she left a voicemail. Her voice was wrecked. Not the fake kind of sobbing either. It was the kind of crying you do when your world is caving in and you know you caused it, but can't stop it. Please, Marshall, I need you to talk to me. Everyone knows. They're saying things. Garrett's trying to say I manipulated him and now I'm the one being investigated. They're looking into ethics violations. I could lose everything. I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't think she'd go nuclear. Please just talk to me. You know I'm not a monster. I listened to it once then deleted it because here's the thing. I believed her. She wasn't a monster. She was just someone who thought consequences were optional. But life doesn't work like that. Not forever. Later that evening, I sent Bridget a thank you text. Simple, sincere. She didn't respond right away, but I wasn't expecting her to. We were two people caught in a quiet war neither of us started, but we refused to be casualties anymore. And maybe that's what finally gave me peace. And Dana, I heard from Valerie the next day. Word was she'd taken a leave of absence from work. Garrett was already moving to another firm, quietly trying to save face. But Dana, she was spiraling. Not because she lost me, but because the version of herself she'd curated so carefully, so deliberately had cracked in front of everyone she wanted to impress. And now she had no idea how to glue it back together. I didn't go to the apartment again. I didn't need to. There was nothing there worth salvaging. Not the furniture, not the framed photos, not the person waiting for me inside. Dana kept trying. Texts turned into emails. Emails turned into long voicemails that I didn't finish listening to. Eventually, she sent a letter, handwritten, 6 pages, full of memories, half apologies, and desperate lines like, you know, I didn't mean to hurt you. And can we just pretend it never happened? But we couldn't. That version of us was over. Not with fire, not with fury, but with silence. With the realization that something can be broken so deeply, even love can't carry it out of the wreckage. I filed for separation 2 weeks later. Not out of spite, out of clarity. She didn't fight it. I think by then she knew that trying to pull me back would only embarrass her further. People talk, reputations fade, but dignity, that's something you rebuild in silence. A month passed, then 2. And somewhere between all the chaos and grief and processing what I just survived, I woke up one morning and didn't think about her first. That was the strangest part. It wasn't dramatic. I just made coffee, opened my blinds, and realized her name hadn't crossed my mind. Not until that moment. And when it did, it didn't sting. It just passed. That same afternoon, I ran into someone I used to know from college. Her name was Myra. We were both grabbing takeout, both awkwardly pretending not to notice how tired we looked. We laughed. We talked. Nothing earth-shattering, but it was easy, real. I told her a little of what I'd been through. She didn't flinch. She just nodded and said, "It's weird how people think love makes them invincible. But the right kind of love, it makes you honest." We started texting, then talking, then walking. And now we're seeing where it goes. No pressure, no pretending. Just quiet honesty between 2 people who've both been torn down before and are finally learning how to build without hiding the cracks. As for Dana, I heard she left the company, moved out of state. Valerie said she's trying to start over, but no one really talks to her anymore. I don't wish her pain. I really don't. I hope she finds whatever truth she kept running from. I hope Garrett's wife finds peace, too. But me, I don't want revenge. I don't want closure. I just want peace. And maybe that's what healing actually looks like. Not standing over the ruins with pride, but walking away from them without needing to look back.